Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. It's episode 77 of 2025, and trade week, free agency week is a wrap. We're going to be going through every club, how they went through the trades, through free agency weeks. There's been a lot of moves. It's literally only just wrapped up in the last half an hour to an hour. So a lot of it's still just settling, but we're going to go through it all. Have a look at all the picks that were traded, all the players that were traded, everything you need to know about what your club did and what every other club did in the AFL throughout the free agency and trade weeks. So that's all to come. Hopefully all the information is correct. Things are hard to keep track of. There's things that change all the time, but throughout this, all the graphics hopefully will be correct. Let me know in the comments if there's any mistakes, but at the end of the day, it's close enough to correct, I think. I think it should all be good. I'm Jay. This is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. We do 2 episodes every single week here at All Aussie Rules. We do one on the AFLW, one on the AFL Men's every single week. The AFLW episode this week is already out, so go check that one out. This one is our free agency and trade. I did say we do 2 every week. That's about to cut back to just 1 a week, which will be mainly the women's episode. With every couple of weeks we'll do a second episode, which will look at the men's. Obviously, before draft week happens, we'll do a little preview of that, and then after the draft we'll do another episode there. But yeah, that's the plan going forward. Let's jump into the action, all the trades and free agency wrap up that you need, because that's what you're here for. There's a lot to get through. We're going to go club by club. So we will repeat stuff over as we go one side of the trade and then the other, obviously. But we're just going to go through them club by club, have a look at where they're at. And then we might even have a look at where each club is sitting, heading towards the draft, where their picks are, and what we can expect. So let's jump into it. Adelaide Crows first up. This is their wrap. Not a massive trade period. Obviously, last year they had a very big one, bringing in multiple players. Peatling, Cumming, Neil Bullen, all joining the club last year. So a lot quieter this year were the Crows. They bring in Finbar Marley from North Melbourne. I don't think that was a massive... I don't know what I was going to say. I was about to say the reverse of what I meant. A little bit of a surprise, I think. I don't know if too many people expected this one. A long way out, but Finbar Marley joins them. Obviously played a few games for North Melbourne this year. Showed some okay signs. An interesting choice of player to go there. The big news is no Archie. They didn't get Archie throughout the trade period. There's talk that he's going to go to them anyway through pre-season draft. We'll see what happens with that. But Finbar Marley is the only player in, no players out throughout free agency or the trade. Just the 1 pick comes in, round 4, pick 64. And 2 picks out, so 57 out, and their 2026 round 4 pick. So a couple of pick swaps there, nothing too exciting, and obviously Finbar Marley coming in, no out. So the team doesn't really grow in strength there, but that's probably not what they needed. I don't know what they did need. If they do manage to get Archie, that will be huge for them. But I guess a lot of what they're hoping is just development of their team and confidence from what they managed to do throughout the home and away season in 2025, and hoping to extend that through into 2026 with more success, more development through some of their younger players, and hope that they can improve that way. Moving on to Brisbane, who are obviously back-to-back premiers, and what a story this one is. They get 2 big signings through free agency. Oscar Allen from West Coast, their captain, and Sammy Draper from the Bombers. So 2 talls coming into this Brisbane Lions lineup. Only player leaving is Brandon Starkovich. He's going to the West Coast Eagles. So three players there, 2 in and 1 out. a lot of picks coming in and a couple out. So they get pick 59, they get 2026 round 3 pick, they get pick 16, pick 22, pick 44, and pick 50. So there's quite a decent amount of picks there that are quite decent. They don't all end up being those same picks. So pick 16 is actually now pick 17, 22 is now 23, 44 is still 54, and 50 goes out to 51. Out goes picks 45 and 56. So overall, that looks like a pretty successful trade and free agency couple of weeks. The Archie one, obviously, still to come. We'll see what happens with that. But getting Allen and Draper in for Starkovic is pretty good effort. Losing picks 45 and 56 and gaining 16, 22, 44, 50, 59. They're in good shape. They are in really good shape, in my opinion. So they've got 2 first-round picks heading into into the whatever you call it, the draft. Picks 17, and 23. So the last pick, obviously, and also the other one, pick 17, which was originally Hawthorn's pick, went to West Coast and now Brisbane. So overall, I think a very successful little couple weeks for the Lions, who look to only get stronger. And with all their draft picks, we know that they've got some academy players coming through. So you would imagine they're only going to get stronger again. So worrying signs for the competition, in my opinion, is how good this Brisbane Lions team will be. Obviously, Sam Draper will just replace Oscar McInerney, who retired. Oscar Allen just adds another tool to this lineup, and they just get stronger and stronger. So we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, Starkovic was a very important player for them over the last couple of seasons. So I don't think they'll have too much issues replacing in terms of they do have plenty of good players that just have been out injured. So that could come back into this team. So we'll see. But overall, I think they've had a very successful couple of weeks. The Carlton Blues, the busiest team probably throughout the 2-week period. There's a lot there. A lot of players in, a lot of players out, and a lot of pick trading both ways, in and out. So a lot to get through here. We'll start with players coming in. 5 are joining them. So Ben Ainsworth from Gold Coast, Campbell Chesser from the West Coast Eagles, Liam Reedy from Fremantle, Oliver Florent, and Will Hayward from Sydney. So the big one there is obviously Will Hayward coming in. He's probably the biggest name there. Ben Ainsworth is a decent pick, as is Oliver Florent. I think he's got quite a bit of potential about him. So I think overall those players coming in are pretty solid. Probably nowhere near to the level of the players going out, but they knew they were leaving, so it is what it is. Players that have left, Corey Durden, he's gone to Port Adelaide. Tom De Koning and Jack Silvani both went through free agency to St Kilda. And Charlie Curnow, big one late in the trade week, has gone to Sydney Swans. So they lose some key position players there. Obviously, their number one ruck in Tom De Koning, their probably best or second best key defender throughout some of the year this year. Probably overall on paper their second best key defender behind Wiedering is Jack Silvani, and obviously two-time Coleman medalist Charlie Curnow leaving as well. So Will Hayward, I think, is a massive get for them. It's something they really lacked this year, was a small medium forward that can kick goals. Will Hayward didn't have the greatest year for Sydney, but if he can get back towards his best, he certainly will be beneficial for this Carlton Blues lineup. Overall, it's obviously a lot of talent going out the door. Not too bad coming in. I think for what was expected of them, obviously everyone knew De Koning and Silvani were leaving. I think overall they've done okay knowing that. There's the whole list of picks there that have gone either way. We're not going to go through each and every single one of them because there's a lot there. But we will just run through their draft picks for this year. So they're going to end up with picks 9 and 11 in the first round, the two big ones that they've got. 9 coming from Hawthorn, but originally their own, so a little bit of a loop-de-loop pick there, and 11 they get from the Sydney Swans for the Charlie Curnow trade. They used their compensation pick from De Koning to move up a spot with that trade with Hawthorn. So a couple early-ish picks in the draft certainly is good. They obviously also basically get another first-round draft pick when you consider the fact that Jagger Smith didn't play this year. So I think their stocks are pretty good in the draft pool. After those couple picks, all mid to late picks, 43, 54, 67, 72. And in terms of future picks, they're pretty much stacked up, because 2026 they're going to have 2 first-rounders, their own and Sydney's. And then in 2027, same story, 2 first-rounders again, theirs and Sydney. So unless, like, obviously there's trades and stuff that could happen over the next couple of years, but hypothetically at the moment it stands that they're going to have 2 first-round picks each of the next 3 seasons. So that's shaping up as a little bit of a strong hand for the Blues. They're really looking at semi-rebuild here in a way. Not a full rebuild. They've still got plenty of older players, Paddy Cripps, obviously, senior players that are very, very good, but they are trying to reboot this team with some young draft talent. So we'll see how that works out for them, but they also did get a little bit of experience in there, especially with Will Hayward joining the cause. Moving on to Collingwood, not a massive period for them. Jack Buller trade got done late, so they get him from Sydney, who I guess in a way might be just a straight swap for Brody Myercheck into their lineup. We'll see. I don't know if Buller's quite ready for that role, but we'll see early on next season probably. But Brody Myercheck leaves to go to Melbourne, so obviously a key forward out. There's been a lot of talk about players leaving Collingwood this year. The fact that it's Myercheck is the only one is probably a positive for them. The fact that it could have been a lot more players, especially like there was talk of Beau McQuarrie, Braden Maynard, Jamie Elliott throughout the season. So they end up only losing Myercheck from that senior brigade. Isn't too bad. Some multiple pick swaps there as well. Nothing too fancy in terms of high picks for any season. They've still got their 26 and 27 first round picks. They don't have a first rounder this year. Their first pick this year's draft will be 39. So they've got 39, 45, 56, 61. So they've stacked up really in that late round 2, early round 3 period in terms of draft picks. I don't think who knows what they'll do with them. You can sometimes find some decent picks in that sort of range, but it's going to be all luck, really, isn't it? So overall, I don't think there's much to say on Collingwood's trade or free agency weeks. Not a lot of action. Obviously, Myercheck out, Buller in, some draft picks, swapping places, but not much in terms of that. So pretty quiet week, certainly from Collingwood standards, who tend to like to go big or go home, but they'll be okay with it. I think it's not a bad one. It's nothing exciting, but it's not a bad week from them. Moving on to the Bombers, who were one of the most talked about teams in the whole trade week, but didn't do a lot of action. The big story, obviously, Zach Merritt did not get done. That's going to be an interesting story to see how that plays out. He obviously really wanted out. You just got to watch the footage of his manager trying to get that trade done with Hawthorn, trying to get Hawthorn to give them more. Tells you all you need to know that Zach Merritt wanted out because his manager was trying his heart out to get him gone. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but I think Zach Merritt is a professional enough player that he'll turn up and play really good football next year. It's going to be interesting to see how his teammates respond to it. But it's going to be a fascinating watch next season. In terms of what actually did get done, Sam Draper obviously left through free agency to Brisbane, and they got pick 20 for that. I think that ended up being pick 21. Braden Fiorini joins the Bombers from the Gold Coast Suns, and that was for a round 3 pick. So that's a pretty good little pick up there for the Bombers. I'm sure they'll be pretty happy with that. An okay seniorish body joining the cause. Sam Draper, I think a lot of people have been expecting him to leave for a long time now, so it's not that surprising. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for this Bombers team. In terms of their ruck stocks, obviously Goldstein was delisted as well, so we'll see what that means going forward. But as it stands, not a huge amount of work done in trade week. They do have some really good draft stocks this season. They've got picks 5, 6, 21, 27, 30. So that's 5 picks in the first round and a half. So really, really good opportunity to get some good young players into this team this season, and hopefully start this rebuild properly, because let's be honest, they've been kind of floating backwards. A rebuild is probably what they need, and 5 picks in the top 30 is a really, really good opportunity to get some good young talent in. I know you go back 4 or 5 years now, they had a lot of early picks that year, and a lot of people will tell you that they wasted them. It wasn't a great draft year, to be fair, but you got to get lucky sometimes. Maybe this year, I know people say it's maybe not the best draft of all time, but that doesn't mean it won't be. Just because it's not on paper right now, you can always find some good players in there, potentially. So we'll see how that plays out. But pretty quiet week, but at the same time, pretty solid from the Bombers. Moving on to the Dockers, a lot of picks here from the Dockers. A couple players, so they get Judd McPhee from Melbourne. I think that's a pretty solid pickup for a team that's they made finals. They had a home elimination final. Obviously, they lost that, but they're obviously a team that potentially will be up thereabouts. I can see Judd McPhee being someone that slots into this team. So I don't think that's a bad pickup. I think that's pretty solid. 2 players leaving, Will Brodie going to Port Adelaide and Liam Reedy going to Carlton. I think one of them was for pick 103, which, I mean, that's not going to be used, so that's a bit of a pointless trade, but it is what it is. Some high picks traded here as well. They get pick 19 in, which is now pick 20, sorry. And obviously picks 12, 33 leaving the club. So some big moves in the draft pick world as well for Fremantle. Interesting little week. Their first pick is going to be pick 20. Then they got 47 and then 69, and they won't be going with picks 90, 103 or 108, I wouldn't imagine. So not a huge stock of draft picks this year. I guess they're relying on their team just internally getting better with an extra year of experience and some good football this season. They haven't bought in a heap, obviously. I think McVeigh will be someone over the next couple of years that could really develop into a very good, handy player, but not huge on those stocks. Obviously, draft stocks isn't great either for them. Pick 20, you might get something good, who knows, but it's going to be a fascinating watch on Fremantle, because they haven't really made a massive move here. They're sitting kind of mid-table for the last couple of years, and I guess we'll see how that plays out. They've got all their own picks for 26 and 27 at the moment, round 1, 2, 3 and 4. So looking towards the future, they haven't really done anything with those picks yet, so we'll see what happens. They haven't picked up anyone else's. They haven't got rid of any of theirs. So that's Fremantle. The next one is Geelong. Big story here, probably that they went after Rowan Marshall and they did not get him. it is what it is for them. They clearly wanted a ruckman. It's probably the thing they're missing the most. And yeah, it's maybe not the off-season week that we expect from a Geelong Football Club. They're a team that go pretty hard on players. They do get Warple in and only Retcheko out. So, I mean, that's overall an upgrade. Warple obviously coming in through free agency, not a trade. So they don't necessarily lose anything other than how much they have to pay Warple. It'll be another body in that midfield, I guess, for Geelong. I don't think their midfield's where they needed players. I've got plenty of talent in there, I think, without having superstars. I mean, Bailey Smith's pretty good. Max Holmes will be an absolute gun. So Warple probably adds a little bit to that. I don't think he's an out-and-out star, so I don't think it adds a huge amount to their midfield. I think it would have been more important for them to try and get a Rowan Marshall or a ruckman, because that's probably what they lack the most. Don't get me wrong, Blixars is good in the ruck, but he's also good anywhere on the ground, so it's not the most... I don't think it's his best spot, if I'm being honest, but maybe it is. So not a massive week for them. Obviously just the one pick, which is pick 99 coming in. I wouldn't imagine they'll be using that. Their draft stocks, picks 19, 40, 60. So pretty much their own picks, basically. Looks like an okay-ish week for them. Warple in. Richko, who obviously hasn't played, leaving the club. Says to Geelong. He obviously didn't go to Geelong. He's gone to Richmond. Overall positive. Nothing too exciting, though, I don't think. It will be fascinating, in my opinion, to see how Warple fits in at the Cats and what that means for their midfield going forward. We're now about to go into some big action clubs, though. Gold Coast Suns were busy, especially on their last day. On the last day, they pick up two players. They get Jamara Ugle-Hagan for basically free, which is a massive, massive get. Number one draft pick from a few years ago. Obviously didn't play this year. And Christian Petrarca also joining the Suns Football Club. So this midfield is going to be scary. You're looking at Rao, you're looking at Anderson, and now you're looking at Petrarca. Good luck going up against this midfield. You stop one, the other two are just going to destroy you. So this midfield is going to be insane. If Ugle-Hagan gets out on the park and is playing football in this forward line as well, wowee, watch out. This team is going to be dangerous. Leaving, they do lose some key players. They lose a fair few players. They lose 5 of them, in fact. Connor Butterick goes to the Bulldogs. Fiorini goes to the Bombers. Ben Ainsworth heads to Carlton. Sam Flanders is a big one. He goes to St Kilda. Obviously didn't have a great season this year. They just couldn't find a role for him. And Malcolm Rosas Jr. is heading to Sydney. You can see a lot of draft picks in and out there. They obviously get rid of a couple first rounders, a pick 8. They got pick 7 in and traded it out again. Their 2026 round 1 pick is also gone. But they're still stocked up on this year's draft picks, certainly through that middle period, which is important for them. Obviously, they have a lot of academy picks that are quite good this season, so they're going to be wanting to spend all these picks. They've got 15, 18, 24, 28, 29, 36, so quite a lot of high-ish picks. That's, 6 in the first 2 rounds, which is quite a lot. So we'll see how that plays out for them, but it's certainly looking like they'll be a team that has quite a lot to do on draft night. I think overall it's a really, really successful week for them. Petrarca in is huge. That midfield's going to be dangerous. We didn't even mention Miller when we were talking about this midfield. They've still got Witts in the ruck. They've got forward line that's really shaping up quite nicely, and obviously their back line's very, very good as well. So they're shaping up as a team that's very, very well rounded. but also very, very good at the pointy end. 5 players out, I mean, it's a lot, but when you're getting 2 potentially very, very good players in, I think that's a very successful week for Gold Coast. Even, yes, they have got rid of some future picks. I don't think it's hurt them too much, though. Obviously, they don't have their first round pick next year, but they do have 2 second rounders, including Melbourne's, their own Melbourne's. And then in 2027, they have their first and second pick again. So they haven't really sacrificed their future too much there, and they have brought in some really good talent. So I think overall, that looks really, really good week from Gold Coast, in my opinion. GWS are next. Jacob Ware was their only one leaving through free agency to Port Adelaide. But the big one here is Clayton Oliver got done late. He joins the team for basically free. I think it was their 2026 round 3 pick that they got rid of for Clayton Oliver. So that is a huge, huge get. Add him into this midfield. Speaking of Gold Coast midfield, this GWS midfield's looking pretty dangerous as well. Tom Green, Finn Callahan, Clayton Oliver, Caniglio. Jeez. Another really, really good midfield. There's a couple stacked midfields now. Both expansion clubs are going to be stacked in that regard. And yeah, it's going to be, if he gets anywhere near back to his best, heading up to GWS, he's going to be dangerous, and this team is going to be dangerous. You're looking at a team that's played quite a lot of finals football over the last 5, 6, 7 years, and you'd have to say it's hard to say that they won't be there again. They do a little bit of a pick swap. They get rid of 14 and 37, and they gain pick 12. So a good little trade there, I think. Move up a couple spots. Their stocks this year, they've pretty much only got picks 12 and 35. 12 is a really solid pick number, so that will be pretty handy. We'll see what they get with that. It's certainly a decent early-ish pick for a team that played in finals, so I think they'll be reasonably happy with that. In the future, all they've got rid of is that 2026 round 3 pick. They've got the rest of their own picks for the next 2 seasons after this one. I think that goes down as a pretty decent win in my eyes. Clayton Oliver in, only Jacob Ware out, and the draft picks basically balance out. They move up a couple spots and got rid of pick 37. So I think that shapes up really, really quite nicely for the GWS Giants. It looks stronger on paper. I think it's hard to argue that. It depends what Clayton Oliver they get, obviously. The Clayton Oliver of 2024 potentially wasn't great. 2025, he'll be handy in this team. If they can get like 2021 Clayton Oliver, they will potentially go very, very deep into September. Next up, it's the Hawks. And the key thing there is 0 players in. They missed out on Zach Merritt, as we discussed when we were talking about the Bombers. They couldn't get him. They tried, and they couldn't get him. The Bombers kept saying no, and it ends up with them bringing nothing in, which is going to be interesting going forward after Sam Mitchell put a massive emphasis when they got eliminated from the prelim that they needed some more stocks. They needed midfield stocks. They were going to go hard, and they don't get it. So that will be interesting. 3 players leave the club. James Warple goes to Geelong. CJ goes to Melbourne, and Jai Sarong goes to Sydney. So interesting there. Some picks going in and out. Overall, I think they've got some decent draft stocks for a team that made a prelim. They've got pick 10 and 22. So 2 first rounders, one mid first rounder and 1 late first rounder. They don't have much else after that. Obviously, definitely 2 of those were players that were in their best team late in the season. Warple and Jaff. Would Jaff be in their best team if they were fully fit? borderline, probably not quite. Same for Sarong. So they don't lose a lot, but they don't gain a lot there. But they do get some draft picks that are in a decent enough area that potentially they can make good use of them come draft night, which is about a month away. Going forward, they have their own picks going forward, plus they've gained a pick 3 from Sydney for next round 3 pick from Sydney for next season. So I think it's pretty solid without bringing in any players. I don't particularly believe that they needed to bring in any experienced or big name players completely. Like, obviously they would have loved to have brought in a Zach Merritt. Wasn't to be. But the thing is here that they were only just missing a grand final berth. Like, they were only 5 goals or whatever behind Geelong in that prelim final. So it's not a heap of improvement needed, and they still got a lot of very good young talent. So I don't think they needed to bring in players. I just expected them to. So maybe it feels like they didn't really gain much there, but it's not a massive deal. Melbourne Football Club were a busy team. They were another one that were very, very busy. A lot of picks going in and out, and also a lot of players going in and out. So they get Brody Myercheck from Collingwood, a seasoned key forward to go into this lineup. So I think that will be huge for them. It's something they clearly have been lacking over the recent couple years. Is that key target up forward. Bailey Fritsch doing a heap of their key forward work. So Myercheck will be a big in for them. I don't know if it's enough to make up for the fact that they weren't great this year, but we'll see. Max Heath comes across from St Kilda. CJ, as we just mentioned, leaves Hawthorn and joins this Melbourne Demons team. And Jack Steele, the big one on the final day, is a big in for them, I think. I think he will see some really good uptick this season, heading for a fresh start at the Melbourne Demons. Players going out, Judd McPhee goes to Fremantle. Charlie Spargo went to North Melbourne through free agency. Christian Petrarca, as we mentioned, goes to Gold Coast, and Clayton Oliver to GWS. So they they lose some midfield stocks there, some senior midfield stocks. They're going to be a very, very young midfield next year. It's going to open up opportunities for players. They've got some really good young talent. Like, we saw Harvey Langford this season show a lot of talent out on that wing. He'll get more midfield time this year, which I think will benefit him greatly. Xavier Lindsay was a draft pick from last year. He'll get some more midfield time. So it's probably a bit of a rebuild in a lot of ways, but adding still some senior talent in there through Myercheck and Jack Steele to help develop these younger players in the absence of your Petrarca and your Oliver. They've still got Max Gawn. He's a gun ruckman, one of the best in the competition over the last few years. So one of the best? He is the best, let's be fair. Whether he's still going to be the best in 2026, we'll wait and see. But that's where it stands. A lot of draft pick changes hands both ways here for the Demons, like very, very active and busy. How it all washes up is they've got picks 7 and 8, so a couple early picks. Obviously their own there, and well, no, not their own, because they gave theirs to Essendon. The 2 picks after their own, which they got through Gold Coast via Port Adelaide and St Kilda, I think. So overall, picks 7 and 8, they'll be reasonably happy with that in terms of draft stocks. They don't have a heap of other draft picks. 37, 66, and 71, and then probably won't use many more, if any, after that. They've got 2 first-rounders next year, their own plus Gold Coast, which probably won't be an early pick. Let's be honest, Gold Coast is looking pretty strong for next year. And then they've got their own first 2 picks the following year. So they've still got some good talent. They've got 2 first-rounders this year, 2 first-rounders next year. So you'd imagine they're going to be a team that continues to bring in a lot of young talent over the next couple years in the hopes that they can kind of fast track this this rebuild sort of thing that they're going to have to go through. I would imagine. Overall, pretty solid week from them. When do I think that they gave away Clayton Oliver too cheaply? Way too cheaply. I don't know why they didn't want him so much. Obviously, there's underlying factors, but he's a very talented player, and obviously Petrarca wanting out was never going to be ideal for them, but it did give them quite a lot of draft picks back, so that's a positive for them. For a team that didn't have a heap of draft picks, they now kind of do have quite a lot of draft picks, so that is definitely a benefit for them going forward. North Melbourne, this is an interesting team. I'm not going to lie to you. They are one of I think there's only 5 teams that don't have a first round draft pick this year, and North Melbourne is one of them. And one of only 2 teams, 3 teams that didn't play finals and doesn't have a first round draft pick. The other 2 being Port Adelaide and St Kilda. St Kilda we'll get to shortly. They obviously went heavy on players. North Melbourne haven't gone that heavy and still don't have a first round draft pick. So that's going to be interesting going forward. Obviously, they traded this year's first round draft pick last year on draft night to Richmond, which I don't think was a great decision. Looking back, it looks bad. On the night, I thought it looked bad. But they do get picks 25, 26, 46, 57 this year. And obviously the next couple of years they've got all their picks. So things in the future not looking too bad for a team that's really struggling to take that next step. They haven't really added anything. They got Charlie Spargo from Melbourne through free agency. It's a nice ad. I don't think it's a great ad. It's not massive. They're going to be relying on the young players on their list to take another step. But the problem is a lot of those players are already playing really, really good football. The big one here was Jai Simpkin kind of floating that he wanted to leave. That trade never happened. They wanted more than most other teams were willing to give, mainly Collingwood, and just nothing could be worked out there. But overall, it's an interesting period for North Melbourne because they've been down for quite a while. And they're not really showing much sign here that they've got much improvement going into next year, in my opinion. Obviously, they went pretty hard last year through trades. They got Caleb Daniel, they got Jack Darling, they got Luke Parker. So they added the experience in last year. It's hard to bring in talent every year, but bringing in a couple players that are in that 22 to 25 or 26 range might have been a really, really good investment for them if they could have managed that. But maybe there was just nobody around. So Finbar Marley goes out after a few games for them this year, and Spargo comes in. Not a massive week for them. For a team that's so far down that doesn't have any first round draft picks, it does concern me a little bit. If I'm being honest, they might prove me wrong, but it isn't looking a great off season for them, and it's hard to see them catching up to a lot of these other teams that are above them because of the fact that they haven't done much here. They haven't added much. They don't have an early draft pick, so where's their improvement going to come? Is my question for you. Next up, we got Port Adelaide Football Club. This is the team that has the least to do on draft night as it stands because they've only got 2 picks and they are 49 and 85. They've put all their eggs in the basket of players and future stuff. So 2026, they've got their own first and second and third and fourth, as well as Carlton's round 2 pick. And then 2027, they have all their own picks. So even that's not massive. They do add 3 decent aged players in Will Brodie from Fremantle, Corey Durden from Carlton, and Jacob Ware from GWS. They did lose pick 29. Other than that, they didn't lose a lot. So overall, it's not terrible. It's just a really interesting week for them, I guess. Bringing in 3 players, not much in terms of young talent going to be picked up from them, you wouldn't think, with what they've got on offer, unless they start trading future picks away to try and get something this year, but that's probably unlikely. I guess we'll see. Just a fascinating watch, I think, going forward for Port Adelaide. Obviously, they dropped off a lot this year. They've still got all their players, all their, like Zach Butters, Rose. They've got plenty of talent on this list. They've got a Mitch Georgiadis up forward, so they're a team that I can see moving back towards finals next year, but they're going to have to find something. I guess we'll find out over the coming months and maybe a year or so, but it's going to be an interesting watch for sure. Next up, we go to the Tigs, who obviously were one of the busiest teams last year in trade week. Not so this year. They do make a couple little changes here, but overall, not a massive week. Patrick Rodchenko comes in from Geelong. So we don't know much about him. He hasn't had much experience yet, so we'll see what that means. Obviously, they basically got him for free, pick 99. They weren't going to use pick 99, so I think that's fine. And Tyler Young leaving for West Coast, and them getting pick 38 back. So once again, it's okay. It's nothing too fantastic. Pardon me. But yeah, pretty quiet little week. It's all about draft night for them. They've got 2 early picks 3 and 4. So they'll be looking to gain some really good players from those 2 picks, and then they've also got pick 38 and 81. So they'll have a busy first night or first couple hours of draft night, and then maybe a bit quieter after that. But it's looking like it will shape up pretty solid for the Richmond Tigers on draft night. Pretty quiet week though. They did okay. They didn't do anything bad. They haven't done anything fantastic, so it is what it is. That is pretty much the Richmond wrap-up. Not too much to report. We move on to one of the busier teams in the week, though, or the fortnight, St Kilda. They brought a lot of players in. The biggest story, obviously, is probably the Lee Kalir story, where they said they were chasing him. Lee Kalir said, yep, I'm going to St Kilda. And then St Kilda deciding at the last minute, nah, actually, we don't want you. And yeah, that threw a curveball into everybody's world, I think. In the end, Lee Kalir did re-sign with GWS, so make of that what you will. But a fascinating little twist and turn that one was. In the end, St Kilda bring in 4 players. Liam Ryan from West Coast, Sam Flanders from Gold Coast, I think, is a massive, massive in. Tom De Koning from Carlton and Jack Silvani from Carlton as well. So they're just spending up big over this off-season. Those bottom 2, both Carlton players, were free agency pools. So didn't really lose much for them except spending money, which this off-season, they've been spending it. And they add players all over the ground, really, there. So, obviously, De Koning will be... I don't know how that's going to work with him and Rowan Marshall. We've seen two key ruckmen playing together before, and it not worked, mainly at Melbourne a couple of years ago with Max Gawn and Brodie Grundy. So, maybe these 2 will work a bit better together. I think, historically, De Koning has looked a lot better when he's in the ruck than as a key forward. That's my opinion. I don't think Rowan Marshall's someone that plays key forward all that well either. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because there was obviously talk that Rowan Marshall was going to go and leave St Kilda once De Koning joined, but that didn't happen. So now we're going to find out about St Kilda and how these two will work together. They've obviously got plans for it. I'm not sure it will work. We will see. Maybe it will work perfect, and they'll prove me wrong. We'll see. So that's interesting there. Obviously, key back of Jack Silvani coming in. I think that's a massive in to play that second key defender role next to Callum Wilkie, who they've managed to keep. Those two down back, I think, will be really good. There's always the chance that they swing Silvani forward and have him as a key forward at times. We'll see. He's obviously played a lot of forward time in his career. Liam Ryan, obviously a big add into their forward pocket wing sort of role. Very talented player. We'll see what that entails for St Kilda, but I mean, more goal kicking opportunities up forward is certainly not something that they would be too disappointed about. And Sam Flanders, how he fits into this St Kilda team will be interesting, because I think he's going there for midfield time. Obviously, I think his best season so far to date was when he spent a lot of it off the half-back flank. He's not going to be fitting into this. St Kilda already have that role probably filled, in my opinion. So maybe he does just go full-time midfield time and make a little 1-2 punch in there with Nashai Wanganeen-Malira, which would be really exciting to watch, I think, if that can work out. But we haven't seen much midfield time from him over the last couple of seasons. So that will be interesting to see how he plays back into that role, if that's what St Kilda have for him. They lose two players, Max Heath and Jack Steele, both going to Melbourne in separate deals. Jack Steele's a big out, but at the same time, they just didn't have room for all these players. I was surprised that they managed to keep Windhager, to be honest. They've spent up big, and it'll be fascinating to watch how that plays out. They've got no early draft picks, so draft night's not going to be busy for them. At the moment, they've got 50, 65, 86, and 104. So they're not getting any top-end talent with that, you wouldn't think. Next year, they're going to have picks 1, 3, and 4. So, as in round 1, round 3, and round 4. So they keep their main pick. And then 2027 looks like a very busy night for them on draft night as it stands at the moment, because they've got round 1, round 2, 3 round 3s, and 2 round 4s as it stands. So, yeah, that's how it is. Obviously, they did trade pick 7 basically for Sam Flanders. So, that's a pretty good deal, I think, for St Kilda. I think overall they've brought in some really good talent. If this all gels and all works, they're a team that could shoot up the ladder with this. Their last 2 years haven't been bad. They've started badly. Mid-season, they're looking not great, but they finished both the last 2 seasons quite strongly. If they can get a better start to a season, maybe they can be a team that plays finals again this season. They've certainly got enough talent on this list now that they should be competing for finals. Whether that's how it plays out, we'll wait and find out, but they definitely have a lot of talent on this list now. Moving on to the Sydney Swans, who is another team that were very busy in the end, including the big deal on the final day. They actually made multiple deals on that final day, but the big one is the Charlie Curnow joining the Crusade at the Sydney Swans. Not the first time they've gone after a big name, multiple Coleman medal winning forward. And last time it worked pretty well. But getting Buddy Franklin in, they didn't get the premiership from it, but they were very, very high up on the ladder for many years. They don't lose heaps here. They lose Florent, Buller, and Hayward. I think Hayward's obviously the big one. He wasn't great for them this year, and that might have been a big problem for them. But I think their biggest issue has been, probably over the last 2 years, is goals from forward line players. they just haven't been getting enough. They get a lot of goals from their midfield. Heaney, Goulden, Chad Warner, all getting multiple goals quite regularly, especially Heaney. But their forward line haven't been getting enough goals, and that's why they've gone after Charlie Curnow. They're like, hey, we want a key forward. We want someone that can kick 60-plus goals in a season. They've gone for it, and they've got it. So, Curnow at his best, we could shoot this team straight back up the top of the ladder. So, we'll see how it plays out. But if they can be fit and healthy, Charlie Curnow playing his best football, this could be a really, really good team. They also bring in Roseas Jr. and Jai Sarong, so 3 players coming in. Obviously, only one of them is guaranteed to be in their best 23. Roseas Jr., Sarong, we'll see how that shapes up. Players going out, obviously 2 of those were in their best 23. Oliver Florent, Will Hayward definitely in their best 23. Jack Buller was a key forward that they were probably looking at being in their best 23 over the next 12 months. Maybe not so much now that Charlie Curnow's in there, so I don't think it's a huge loss for them. But yeah, overall, not a terrible week there. I think overall pretty good. They'll be happy that they've got Curnow. They did have to give up a lot for him. They obviously gave up pick 11 for this year. They also gave up their 26 and 27 first rounders. They do get some picks back from Carlton, so they got 31 and 42 for this year back from Carlton, and like round 3 and 2 pick over the next couple of years. So some pick swaps, but they had to give up a lot. But I think it was worth it. I think what they gave up, they'll be pretty happy with their deal, in all honesty. Their draft stocks this year, picks 31, 32, 42. So they've got some solid picks without being great there. And future, obviously, no first rounders for the next couple of years is the concern. But when you get an opportunity for a player like Charlie Curnow, it's something that you probably got to think about seriously. So I think they'll be reasonably happy overall with what they've got there across this couple-week period. 3 players in, 3 players out. The biggest name there is joining them. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think it is something that Sydney probably needed looking on paper over the last couple of years. And now that they've got it, I think it will be very, very beneficial for them if Charlie Curnow can be anywhere near his best. On to the West Coast Eagles, another team that had a fair bit to say and do over trade and free agency, and they're going to have a lot to say on draft night. So they bring in 2 players, Tyler Young from Richmond, which I was a little surprised about, and Brandon Starkovich from Brisbane. Fresh off a premiership, fresh off being the best team in the competition, goes and basically does a straight swap for Oscar Allen. Obviously, it wasn't. Oscar Allen was free agency and Starkovich wasn't. But overall, that 2 ends that I would imagine will be both in their best 22 next season. Leaving their team, though, 2 players that were in their best 22 for sure, Liam Ryan and Oscar Allen, as well as Campbell Chaser leaving as well. So 3 players out, 2 players in. Overall, Starkovich is the big in. I think he really strengthens this back line up quite nicely. So maybe a little bit of improvement there for the Eagles going forward. They're going to be very, very busy on draft night. As you can see, quite a lot of pick swaps there, which basically ends up with them having picks 1 and 2 in the draft. Pick 1, obviously, they finish wooden spoon. Pick 2 as the compensation pick for Oscar Allen leaving. So they'll be really stoked with picks 1 and 2. They've also got picks 13 and 34 from the Starkovich trade as well. So they got Starkovich in as well as picks 13 and 34. Obviously, they did lose 16, 22, and 23. But 3 picks in the first 13, as well as picks 34, 41, 53, 58. They're going to be able to pick up quite a good bunch of young talent in this year's draft. So I think West Coast is a team that is looking to try and boost this rebuild. Obviously, they've had quite a few years down. They've got some really good young talent out there. They're trying to boost it here. They've added Starcevic into that back line, which will give them added experience and composure down back a bit. Now, if they can add some more really high-end, good young players, that will be really, really big for them. Obviously, if they can stay fit and healthy as well, would be huge, because you've got players like Waterman, who didn't play much this year, Elliot Yeo, who has barely played over the last couple seasons. So bringing in those sort of players, as well as around a lot of young players coming in as well. Harley Reid's going into his third season, so I think it's time for West Coast to start winning games again. This year was an absolute disaster. I think this off-season so far has been okay, and if they can do it, have a really good draft night, they can really have a successful off-season to make up for the fact that their regular season was absolutely horrid. And hopefully that boosts them into 2026 with a little bit more momentum than what it looked like they were going to be going into it with. On to the last team. It's been a bit of a journey through 18 clubs, but the final team is the Western Bulldogs. Not a huge amount of action. Connor Buderick joins the cause from the Gold Coast Suns. I think that's a pretty good in for them. Jamari Ugle-Hagan out. Obviously, he didn't play this year, so it does, on paper, it's not a massive out. I think him in this Bulldogs forward line would have been very, very interesting this year, because obviously Norton and Darcy were just running rings around teams. They're a team that has all the talent in the world. They have such a good midfield. They have such a good forward line. Their back line is probably their big issue. They didn't get anybody in free agency or trade week to fill that role, so that might be something going forward that they still struggle with. We'll see, but overall, they also lose pick 12, gain pick 14, so drop back a couple spots there. No biggie, I don't think. I don't know. I really don't know what's going on at the Bulldogs. There has to be something else, because they are one of the most talented lists in the competition. Obviously, Ugle-Hagan leaving is a big one for them. It's not great. They don't get much back for him either, but it is what it is. They've still got plenty of talent. They just need to find a way to actually play consistently good football. It's basically the long and the short of it. Their draft night will be picks 14, 33, 70, 74, and I doubt they'll use 89 or 107. That's pretty much a wrap on trade and free agency week. A lot of action, a lot of picks, a lot of trades, a lot of stuff happened over the last couple of weeks. It's going to be an interesting month going forward into draft. As I said, we will be doing some pre-draft content and we will do post-draft content. Not exactly sure just yet on the dates of those episodes, but keep an eye on the channel. You might as well watch all the episodes. We do AFLW stuff, we do AFL men stuff, we do a lot of content here at All Aussie Rules. Obviously, multiple podcasts all the time on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We also do plenty of social media stuff all over the place. All Aussie Rules everywhere. And we also do other YouTube videos as well. So we do season reviews, mid-season reviews, season previews. We do a lot of stuff. So go check it all out. Plenty of content all over the YouTube and other social medias. All Aussie Rules everywhere. Go check it out. We'll quickly run through the first round of the draft just to see where every team sits right now. It's West Coast with picks 1 and 2. Richmond with picks 3 and 4. Essendon 5 and 6. Melbourne 7 and 8. So it's basically the Noah's Ark draft. For the first 8 picks, it's 4 teams just going 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. After that, we finally get a little bit of variety. Not a heap though, because it goes Carlton at pick 9, Hawthorn 10, Carlton again at pick 11, GWS 12, back to West Coast for pick 13, Then the Bulldogs at 14, Gold Coast 15, Adelaide 16, Brisbane 17, Gold Coast back to 18, Geelong 19, Fremantle 20, Essendon 21, Hawthorn 22, Brisbane 23. That's not how it's going to end up being, because there's going to be father sons or academy players taken. So there will be other teams slotting into places up in that top end of the draft. But that's how it stands right now for your first round. Obviously, there's 5 other rounds that are apparently potentially going to happen, but I don't think there's too much excitement in that list, but we'll see. Other than that, I don't think there's too much else to go through. It was a busy couple of weeks of trade and free agency news. I hope that's given you a good overview of everything. As I said, some of the numbers have changed since I created the graphics. It is what it is. It's pretty close. I've said the official numbers straight off the website. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you thought of your club's trade week / free agency week. Were they successful? Are you happy with the deals that they made? Every team in the end did make some deals. Going into the last day, there was a couple of teams that hadn't. But it's been a busy couple of weeks. It's been interesting. There's been some big name players that did trade, change club, but there's also some big name players that we thought were going to change club and hasn't. So that'll be interesting to see how that dynamic affects those clubs going into next year. But I appreciate you for tuning in. Like the video, or if you haven't already, if you're on YouTube, if you're on one of the other ones, obviously give the podcast a rating. Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button. I'll be back with another episode next week on the AFLW. I don't think there's any AFL men's episodes next week. We'll be back. Next AFL men's episode will be a couple weeks when we start preparing for draft. Thank you for watching. I'm Jay. This has been a big episode. I appreciate you for being here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one.